Hi, it's Dwyer. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. It's Monday, after week 2 of the NFL. Right? The Monday night game is still going on. I'm not going to mention those teams. But it's Monday after week 2 of the NFL. Right? September 18th, 2023. Let's talk football. Let's talk about our takeaways from week 2. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now let me just say, the great Billy Walters gave an interview. The best one I found is the one done by the Action Network. And in that interview, he was asked about his biggest bet ever. And he talked about the Super Bowl. He talked about how he believed the New Orleans Saints were much better than Peyton Manning's Indianapolis Colts. Right? Then he said something interesting after talking about the millions he bet on that event. At the end, he talked about how he also made money off futures. Now, it's my belief, as I've been saying here online for years, that futures are where you make the lion's share of your money, right? As I said in a prior video, I put down money at 25-1 on Brock Purdy. Understand, the future doesn't have to hit for me to make money. If Brock Purdy makes it to the final 3 of NFL MVP consideration, then I can start throwing money, depending on the odds, etc., on his opponents, right? On the other finalists. In other words, if you get long odds, once you get near the event, you can then hedge to win if your original pick or a different late pick hits. So with that in mind, let's talk about week 2. Let's talk about our take at this point of the season. Understand, I'm going to use hard language here. Right? Not curse words, but just language that suggests that it's over for some teams. Now, maybe by some miracle, they can bounce back in the middle of the season. Right? I remember the Chargers years ago, starting 0-4, and then making the Super Bowl. Right? Junior Seau's team. Well, it's possible, but it's unlikely. I understand many of you are going to get upset with my hard takes. Tell us about it in the comment section of this YouTube video. First, let me just say, it's over for the Cincinnati Bengals for this year. Right? Joe Burrow is gimpy. He's not close to 100%. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a gambler. I'm just telling you what I saw with my own 2 eyes. Calf injuries are troublesome. You remember Kevin Durant in the NBA had a calf injury. You start favoring that leg. You're a little bit nervous about it. Well, Kevin Durant tried to push his calf injury, ended up snapping his Achilles. The Bengals are 0-2 against divisional teams. Folks, that's a disaster. Understand, the Ravens right now have a 2-game lead on the Bengals. And of course, they won the head-to-head. Let me also say, too, that the Bengal offense, which really is the heart and soul of that team, right? Joe Burrow's getting the big money for a reason, has not looked good. They had less than 300 total yards against the Ravens, right? I'm putting the Bengals in my it's over category. I know they were recently in a Super Bowl, but if you're betting futures, you're betting futures for this season. Right? Let's continue. The Ravens, they're 2-0. Folks, they have legs. Get in on futures here. Right? Not many teams are better than this Raven team. Understand, next week, they play Indy. Let me say this diplomatically. I know there are a lot of people out there talking about Indy's quarterback, Richardson, right? It's over for Richardson for this year. The brother doesn't know how to avoid getting hit, right? He just doesn't. He's been knocked out now of 2 games. He's only played 2 pro games. So just understand, he's going to have to rework his style. I'm not sure if his limited accuracy from the pocket makes that possible. I know he was a very high pick in this year's NFL draft. Let's just say he's a work in progress. That's going to take some time. I'm expecting the Ravens 2-0 now after playing Indy in week 3 to become 3-0. Right? Let's talk about the Eagles. Folks, the Eagles are not the same team that they were last year. They're 2-0, sure, but they're not the same team. They were lucky to beat the Patriots week 1. Minnesota turned over the ball 4 times and only lost by 6. Jalen Hurts against the Vikings was sacked 4 times. He doesn't look the same. Right? Cousins had 346 net passing yards. I thought Kirk Cousins was a guy who folded on national TV. Apparently not so much against the Eagles. Right? The Eagles don't have the pass rush that they had last year. Compare and contrast last year's numbers to this year's numbers. And understand, too, the Eagles have an absolute juggernaut in their division called the Dallas Cowboys. Right? The Eagles, 2-0, they're still in the hunt. But let's just say this is not last year. I'm expecting problems. Speaking of problems, let's talk about the Chiefs. The Chiefs remain offensively challenged, don't they? Jacksonville has an interesting defense, not the kind of defense we thought before game 1 would hold the Chiefs to 17 points. Right? You want to talk about a gimpy player? Travis Kelce is gimpy. Right? Now let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is 2-0. Dallas has a great, let me underline that, great defense. And statistically, they have a great offense. Now, you and I know Dak has a bad habit of throwing picks. Right? But so far this year, that hasn't happened. Right? Dallas, great offense, great defense. They play Arizona next week and should get to 3-0. Right? After that, they play the Patriots at home. Now, the Patriots are underrated. Right? The Patriots were competitive this last week, quite frankly, after being competitive against the Eagles week 1. But teams can only start by losing so much. How many Patriot games are we going to have that come down to a late play that Mac Jones is unable to pull off? Right? Just understand that I think the Cowboys at home should beat the Patriots. That would make the Cowboys 4-0 before having to go to San Francisco for Game 5. Right? I think the Cowboys have legs. You're looking for teams to put futures on? I think the Cowboys are one of them. Now it's over for Denver. You heard me criticize the Bengals here, saying, hey, you just lost 2 division games. Right? Cleveland and Baltimore, your rivals. You're 0-2. Well, just understand, Denver just lost 2 home games. Right, folks? It used to be that September was a Bronco month. The teams would show up in Denver to play Denver, and they just weren't in mid-season form. The thin air got to them. They would wilt late. Well, apparently not during the Russell Wilson era. Denver's 0-2. Right? Let me also say, too, that the defense was non-existent in the second half against the Washington Commanders. Right, folks? Who, watching this video, thought Washington was an offensive juggernaut? I would say the odds of the Broncos bouncing back, even with Sean Payton as head coach, are now slim. Tampa Bay, they're 2-0. Baker Mayfield has figured out that he has a future Hall of Famer at wide receiver on his team in Mike Evans. But the schedule is brutal, and I'm unconvinced. They play Philly next. Right? This is a work in progress. We'll see how it turns out. 2-0, that's certainly a feather in their cap. But let's just say they're going to have to deal with a pretty brick schedule. We'll revisit this as time passes by. The Redskins are 2-0. I tip my hat to Eric Bieniemy. Right? He had Sam Howell and that crew just dealing in the second half against the Broncos on the road. But the defense, which we thought was the meat and potatoes of the team, that defense is leaking. Where was the defense in the first half against the Broncos? Understand it matters because up next is Buffalo. Then after that, it's Philly. That's going to be tough. Right now, I'm not a believer. Buffalo, I'm a believer here. I know they're 1-1, but that was against the Jets, a tough defense in the division that knows Buffalo because they play them twice a year, right? Let's just say that their rushing defense, which was absolutely gashed by the New York Jets in Week 1, showed up big time against last year's rushing champion, Josh Jacobs. Right now, they play the Commanders this coming week before having a 3-game stretch at home, where they have a real home field advantage. I think the Bills have legs. Now let's talk about the gold standard. Naturally, the San Francisco 49ers. They're 2-0. Some of my friends think I'm drinking the Kool-Aid because I'm in the Bay Area, right? Just to be clear here, I'm a New York Giants fan. You don't hear me talking about them. The fact that I'm in the Bay Area doesn't really mean much. The team means a lot. I believe only the Dallas Cowboys are competitive with this Niner team in the NFC. Now that's assuming guys stay healthy. And you and I know with players like Christian McCaffrey, that's asking a lot. Right? But if the Niners stay healthy, I'm not sure who can beat them. Let me say this here. This team has legs. Get in now. The next 2 games are against my beloved Giants on Thursday Night Football. I believe that's a win for the Niners, as painful as that is for me to admit. And against the Arizona Cardinals. Folks, you might as well call Thursday and the game after that bye weeks for this Niner team. They're 2-0. They're going to be 4-0. Brock Purdy is much better than advertised. Right? Kyle Shanahan owns Sean McVay. You saw that this last week. Yet another win. And, of course, he's probably, in my opinion, the best coach in the conference. You know, it's interesting, too. Some running backs wanted to get paid, including Josh Jacobs, who I mentioned earlier. Saquon Barkley wanted to get paid this offseason. Dalvin Cook wanted to get paid this offseason. These are high-level running backs. And we were sold some nonsense lie that running back isn't that important these days in the NFL. You know, it's amazing how that's not true with the Dolphins. It's amazing how that's not true with the Niners, 2 of the teams who are 2-0. Right? Mozart with the Dolphins, he's running his butt off, isn't he? Christian McCaffrey leads the league in rushing. Right? This could be the Niners' year. They play the Cowboys in San Francisco in Week 5. Let me just say this. And I'm someone who believes that the Niners win the NFC this year. I almost hope the Niners lose against the Cowboys just to remind themselves that they're mortal. How loaded are the Niners? Nick Bosa is the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. Christian McCaffrey leads the league in rushing. I just think this team is too loaded, right? Brock Purdy gives them an advantage most teams don't have because he was Mr. Irrelevant. He not only is on a rookie deal, folks, it's a bad Mr. Irrelevant rookie deal. So, of course, the Niners can back up the Brinks truck for Nick Bosa and for others. Understand, one of the secrets of the league is if you have a Russell Wilson on a rookie contract, a Dak Prescott on a rookie contract, you can build out the rest of your team. Well, now Dak's getting paid a lot, isn't he? Look at the AFC. You notice Joe Burrow is getting paid a lot now, isn't he? Jalen Hurts in the NFC is getting paid a lot, isn't he? Right? I don't believe these teams can compete with the Niners on personnel because the Niners, quite frankly, by paying Brock Purdy rookie salary money, have more money to pay the stars. They're loaded. Finally, let me mention the Jags. They lost to an out-of-sync Chiefs team. And I'm just talking for myself, I know many in the press disagree. I still have doubts about Trevor Lawrence in big games. The Jags playing a team with a gimpy Travis Kelce, playing a team with wide receivers who are too young, were held to 9 points. 9 points against the Chiefs. Now they play Houston next, then they play Atlanta at home. Right? They have a possibility to get to 3-1. But in my opinion, the jury is still out on the team. Finally, let me say this. Miami looks great right now, but I haven't seen Tua get too roughed up. Miami's going to live or die with Tua, right? If Tua gets hit, gets a concussion, is out for a series of days or weeks, the mood in the room is going to change, right? I'll agree, Tyreek Hill with Waddle, and let's be real here. Those two wideouts, I'm not talking about tight ends, those two wideouts would clearly be the best wide receivers on the Kansas City Chiefs if they were on the Chiefs this year. Right? That tandem is dynamite. Tua throws a pretty good deep ball. But we understand there's going to be a week that happens where they face a Vic Fangio level defense that's out for blood, that's going to come in and hit Tua hard. Right? Miami is promising. I love their head coach. I love the original schemes and stuff like that. Let's just say the jury's still out. That's a delicate situation that literally could change on the next hit. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this video. Understand the way the season operates. I'm interested in getting teams at huge odds. I recently got the Niners at something like 9 or 10 to 1, which I consider robbing the casino. Right? But as the season progresses, every team is going to have injuries. If a Christian McCaffrey, if an Ayuk, if a Brock Purdy gets hurt, that's going to materially change the Niners' chances. Right? Materially. So when you're betting futures, just understand, while you're getting longer odds, and that's great, you're also taking on more risks. You're going to have to be nimble. So you heard me earlier say that I believe in the Cowboys more than I do the Eagles. And understand, because the Eagles were in the Super Bowl with a double-digit lead, by the way, right? This last Super Bowl, the Eagles went off at shorter odds to win the NFC East. right? I believe the Cowboys have a better defense than the Eagles. I believe the Cowboy offense has players, right? The Cowboys, to me, right now look like the class of the NFC East. But all of that would change quickly if Dak Prescott got hurt, if Micah Parsons got hurt, right? So we'll talk about this with an eye for what teams are still viable and stuff like that. I'm just telling you, sometimes the team has injuries. The Bengals, Joe Burrow, he's not the same. Sometimes the team just doesn't have a coach who can hold a lead. Right? That's you, San Diego. Let me just say, I don't know what's happening in Denver, but they've had a problem holding leads, haven't they? So we'll see if any of this changes. But right now, this is how I see the world. Let's just say the Ravens seem to have a jump on everybody in their division. Let's remember, too, their quarterback, who was injured last year, their quarterback has already won an MVP and does have one of the highest winning percentages of all quarterbacks in this league for his career. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.